Hello, everyone. I'm Eva, and I'm very excited to welcome you to our first ever Active Peers YouTube live stream. We have developed and launched this series because we want to give you insight into how you can use Active Peers AI to host engaging and active peer learning sessions for your group so that your participants can get the chance to effectively share knowledge, build confidence, and discover their untapped potential. For those of you who aren't familiar with Active Peers AI, let me give you a quick explanation of what this company is all about. At Active Peers AI, we use artificial intelligence to enable our clients to facilitate a group of people who are engaging in an active and collaborative learning experience. We have built a unique AI matching algorithm that matches people together based on what they already know and what they want to learn. This ensures that everybody finds the best peer learning partner possible to make the most out of their collaborative learning experience. We have also a peer learning prompter that is used to guide peer discussions to ensure that everybody gets a chance to share but also learn from one another in the most effective way possible. Today, I'm going to be interviewing our CEO and founder, Susan HayesCulleton, who is also an associate lecturer at Ulster University. She used Active Peers AI to great effect on numerous occasions when delivering the Job Readiness Modules at the university. In the case study that we're going to look at today, Susan was tasked with helping career changers at the end of the finance-related program. These job seekers were going through a lot of emotions, including overwhelmingness, excitement, fear, and lack of confidence, among many others. Susan knew that if she could help them understand where their strengths and weaknesses lay, match people together strategically based on their experiences, and interview each other as well as document what they learned from the interaction, there could be a lot of benefit for everybody. We're going to hear all about how she made the magic happen. But before we begin, I want to share some of the questions that we have received from you in advance. We're going to answer as many questions as we can, but let me start off by acknowledging them, as we love to hear from our audience. Some of the questions we got were, how successful was the workshop? What other kinds of peer learning activities did you conduct in this job readiness module? Do you have any tips or advice for implementing peer learning in day-to-day office life? And how can I use Active Peers AI to build the confidence of my staff members who are already settled in their careers? We will be answering these questions during the Q&A session shortly. But before we do that, we have a surprise for you. Active Peers AI has put together an innovative video that gives you insight into how Susan built empathetic connections and built the career changes confidence during the job readiness module. We will now play the video for you, and we will commence our Q&A session soon after. In this video, you will learn how a client used Active Peers AI with job seekers to build their confidence through empathy with their peers. Our client has in fact used their service many times, and she found it to be particularly effective during a job readiness module as her students felt overwhelmed when they were trying to find new jobs or change careers. Job seekers often develop feelings of anxiousness as they are worried about how they present themselves to prospective employers and what to say to recruiters. Active Peers AI offered these job seekers a chance to connect with those who are either in a similar situation or who can empathize with how they feel, so that they're not only able to build their confidence, but also leverage the support of other people who have been or are in a similar position. The students were also very eager to learn practical tips, gain wisdom, and hear about others' experiences. So to achieve these goals, our client ran a mock interview where the job seekers got a chance to play the role of both an interviewer and interviewee. First, the participants filled out a survey to help break down their job readiness into areas they're good at and areas they want to improve on, such as CV preparation, interview skills, and networking. They used AI matching to connect these job seekers based on the results of this survey. The matching mechanism connected people who are comfortable in one area to those who want to learn more about that area. For instance, people who wanted to learn more about handling interviews were matched with people who were good at doing interviews. It is a simple but effective way to help people connect meaningfully, and it is much better than listening to a presentation on the do's and don'ts in an interview. Next, they used a peer learning prompter to give structure to the interaction and help think through their experiences. The job seekers could stay on track while ensuring that everybody got a chance to share their experience. This also made interviews seem less daunting to the job seekers as they had experienced what it was like to be on the underside of the interview table as an interviewer. The activity helped them understand that they first need to know what the recruiter wants, determine if they have it, and then give it to the recruiter in a language that they understand. Hence, these job seekers felt more confident about their job readiness once they had the chance to experience what a recruiter is looking for in an interview. After the mock interviews, the job seekers documented their learnings. It is important to think through what you have learned so that you can reflect back on it. Our client talked through the feedback with them. She pointed out the trends, emphasized that it is natural for people to feel anxious and overwhelmed when applying for jobs, and summarized the concrete steps that they can follow to move forward. In the end, our client was able to successfully build these job seekers' confidence by giving them a chance to have mock interviews in a non-threatening environment, sharing experiences with their empathetic peers, and helping them connect with each other with just the information they needed.
Created using Powtoon.
I hope you have all enjoyed watching the video as much as we have enjoyed putting it together for you. It is now time to invite Susan to join us in this live stream. If you haven't submitted questions for the Q&A session already, you still have a chance to do so by typing them in the live chat. Hi Susan, how are you doing today?
I'm really well, Eva. Thank you very much for having me.
Susan, can you tell us a little bit more about this experience that you designed and ran with the group?
Sure. So my intent was to really demystify what it's like to be on the other side of an interview table, because a lot of people, Eva, who were coming to this, they had been through a finance program with me. I was lecturing in global financial markets, and then it was time for them to now start looking into job opportunities, etc. So one of the activities that we ran as part of the Job Readiness Module is to bring people together and to enable them to give mock interviews to each other. And by doing that, it gave them a sense of how does this actually work? What is it like when you're sitting interviewing somebody and you need to process all the information that's coming through to you, etc. And what it also did then was it gave them a kind of a low risk opportunity to try out what it's like to, answer questions related to a new type of career, like how or why do you want to move into this area, etc. So just to really boil it down then, what we actually did. What we did was we brought people together, we gave them a chance to interview each other, and then in advance they had to prepare questions and prepare what they were going to say. And then afterwards they had to give each other 3 pieces of positive feedback and also 1 piece of advice about something to work on. So each person had an opportunity to give an interview twice and be interviewed once. That was the way it worked.
That's amazing, Susan. It sounds like you really helped the participants manage their emotions and build their confidence through conducting mock interviews with their peers. I also really like the idea of the AI matching algorithm, as it really matches people based on their competencies, which is way better than matching people randomly. Anyway, so let's now start our Q&A session. The first question that we got was, how successful was the workshop?
I personally think it was very successful from the point of view of what I had wanted to achieve, Eva, and that was, number 1, I wanted to build people's confidence. And again, I know I'm saying it again, but I wanted to demystify the experience of what it's like to be around the table. But I think it's always important to think through, what does success mean before you consider how successful it was. Every single person took away during that Job Readiness Module 10 questions that they might ask somebody in an interview, how to prepare for a competency-based interview, because we did know that people were going to ask questions like, tell me about a time that you worked in a team, or tell me about a time that you overcame a problem. So they also had the opportunity to think through what type of information they wanted to share in it. Each person took away 3 pieces of positive feedback about their performance 3 times. Twice as being the interviewer and once being the interviewee. And also everybody got 1 piece of advice 3 times about how they could improve. So ultimately, for me, what this was I wanted this to be something that was focused on how to build your confidence in this environment, or as you say there, Eva, how to manage your emotions. Number 2 is I wanted people to take away personalized feedback about themselves. And number 3, for it to be actionable and action orientated. That was what was important.
That's great to hear, Susan. It sounds like you were really able to help each and every person in your group. Now, moving on to our second question, someone asked, What other kinds of peer learning activities did you conduct in this job readiness module?
So I'm going to give you two. One is a quick one. It's really effective, really fast, and you need one tiny piece of technology, and that is an open, as in an editable Google Sheet. Here is a space online. You can do it in person through people's phones or online through a link in the chat, and just create a Google Sheet where people can write down questions that they think might come up in an interview, been asked in an interview, might be concerned about if they were asked in an interview. And overall, this crowdsources then the list of questions that could come up in a scenario like that. And you can do that in so many different scenarios, Eva, whether it is like best practice for how you create a graphic, or whether it might be questions that you could be asked in a Q&A if you go on a panel session. That simple technique works really well. The other one is where we ask people to rank the different subsets, the different parts of an interview. So let's say applying for jobs, interview preparation, interview itself, getting feedback afterwards, following up, etc. So what we did was gave people a survey and asked them to rank their confidence and experience in each, as well as what they wanted to know in each. And then our algorithm matched them together accordingly. So let's say then we might have had somebody who was very confident in their interview preparation, matched with somebody who wanted to know more about that. And then maybe somebody who was really good in interviews, matched with somebody who wanted to know more about that. So our algorithm matched them together, and then we gave them the prompter. And the prompter is a series of questions that the people can go through just to help them share their knowledge, because not everybody knows exactly how to share their learnings with other people. And then afterwards, they documented then what they learned from each other. And then that also, crowdsourced more, like tips, techniques, knowledge, etc. Like our tagline, Eva, is that the knowledge is already in the room. So then that was a lot more effective than, let's say, me starting off with a PowerPoint slide with the do's and don'ts. Collectively, they walked through the process of sharing the do's and don'ts, and then they had a crowdsourced, again, series of tips and ideas and things that they could take away and practice. So there were two other activities that I ran with that group.
That's amazing, Susan. I really like how you came up with the idea of creating a blank Google Sheet, as it really allowed your participants to crowdsource interview questions and really truly learn from each other in a peer-to-peer learning session. It's also great because when people get to share their experiences, then they get to hear about how uncertain they felt, but also, they can also get some comfort from other people who were also in this similar situation as them. Now, moving on to our next question, someone asked, do you have any tips or advice for implementing peer learning in day-to-day office life?
Absolutely. First of all, I think it's important to understand why is it useful. And the reality is, Eva, is that modern workplaces today really rely on people working together in teams, rely on collaboration, etc. So I'm going to give 3 ideas for this. Number 1 is that I think it's very important that people are encouraged to reflect on what they learn. And I do it all the time. Believe me, I practice what I preach. I always think through, what did I learn from that? And where do I need to write that down so that I make sure I learn from it? Or who can I share this with in the company so that then they too can benefit from that learning? The second thing is, I think it's really worthwhile to create space in meetings for, here's an idea that I've brought to the table, how can we build on that? And when I say create the space, I don't just mean like the time, I mean create the culture where, here's an idea that I brought to the table, how can we build on that? Is not, how can this be better because I don't think it's good enough? Is that it's about building, like building on top of things. And I think when you can bring that into a company's culture, I think that really does create the fertile ground for betterment and improvement and definitely collaboration. And the third thing is, when people come with a query, whether it's internally and somebody goes to somebody else for help, or whether it's a customer service query, there's value in that. There's genuine market research in that, Eva. And I think, it's useful to say, why did that query come in? Is it because the onboarding isn't good enough? Is it because we need to document a process around that? Is it because the process is documented, but people don't know where to go? Is it because the person who generally answers the questions from everybody else is out sick, and actually we need to have a better environment here for spreading tacit knowledge around the business? So our organisation, it doesn't just have to be a business. So that's what I would say, is it's about culture, it's about process, and about taking time to reflect.
That's great, Susan. So what I'm hearing from you is that it's important to encourage people to document their learnings on a public forum, whether it's Google Docs or Slack or any other channels. And it's also very important to create a space in meeting times to give constructive criticism to each other and to talk about different things, and also creating an environment in the office where you're comfortable asking difficult questions and wondering where the inquiries are coming from.
Wow,
Now, on
that's
to
a
our last
really good
question.
summary.
Yeah. Now, on to our last question. Someone asked, how can I use Active Peers AI to build the confidence of my staff members who are already settled in their careers?
Okay, number one thing that I would say here is that one of the ways that you can build confidence in people is to genuinely let them see the impact that their knowledge can have on other people. And I've seen this countless times, Eva, and it's one of the best things about being CEO of Active Peers AI is that you see the people grow, like their physiology changes when they hear other people saying, I learned this from you, and as a result, I'm now better off, or I can now go and try this out, or that might work for me. And so first of all, I would say is by creating a focused, consistent, output generating environment where people can genuinely see that other people can learn from them, that can help. The second thing is that I think when you help people overcome problems and help them help themselves now, that's what I mean. And then by pointing out, okay, you've overcome that. Now that you've done that, let's now move forward and see what else you can come across. So again, it goes back to that point about if somebody brings an idea to the table and then somebody else says, I think we can build on that by doing X. If that culture is genuinely positive and that improvement is recognised, that's what I mean by other people learning that, sorry, let me go back. It's really great to see then that somebody can learn and build upon somebody else's knowledge sharing. And also, if as a result of somebody bringing a problem to the table, then they can say, yes, we can help you overcome that. Maybe it's something you need to learn, a different solution you need to try, a different perspective of looking at it, and then they overcome it. That too can be really, really good. The third thing I will say, and I'm particularly speaking to anybody who manages people here, and I'm not just talking about managers who manage down, I'm talking about working with people in any way that you might manage people. If you're going to compliment somebody, it's really important that you back it up with some substance, not just, oh yeah, you're great, you're great, thank you, but you're great because, and here's this reason why, this experience, why, a compliment that I received from a client about you, etc. I think in order to build people's confidence, it's important that you back up compliments with substance, and then at least have something to really hang on to. And I think that there's great wisdom in the phrase that we learn an awful lot by analysing our successes, and by helping other people to analyse theirs, that can really help too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. I also do think that positive reinforcement is very important, and it's very important to point out specific things that people are doing well, because then they know what they need to keep doing and what they can improve on. So now, unfortunately, Susan, that's all the time we have for the Q&A session today. So we're going to end it right here. It was really lovely to have you with us here today, Susan. I'm sure our audience has found the Q&A session as helpful as I have. And thank you so much to our audience for taking the time up to join us in our first ever YouTube Live, and for all of your lovely questions. Active Peers AI is looking forward to seeing you all again in our future live streams. Take care and goodbye, everyone.